Greetings, this is Ruth Ruby, the Nostalgic Catholic, with yet another Isaac Asimov short story. Now, this one's kind of unusual because it comes in Alfred Hitchcock's mystery magazine. This is a different kind of mystery. It's not an Ellery Queen kind of, whodunit sort of mystery, as he's published a number of stories in there, including a huge number of Black Widowers mysteries and maybe some Union Club mysteries as well, and other ones that would, anything that's not of those categories I will have reviewed. But this is more of an Alfred Hitchcock. Good evening. You have reached the office of Alfred Hitchcock. I regret that I am unable to come to the phone at this time, as I was just seeing off an old friend. This marvelous device, however, is quite well designed to receive your message if you care to leave it verbally through your telephone at the sound of the scream. So, okay. So here's the story here that actually really fits in here pretty well. They got all these stories that people think, just bump somebody off and you get money usually or something. And in this case, the story is a nice title here. Nothing Might Happen by Isaac Asimov, age 55. Nothing might happen. You never know. Nothing might happen. Well, at 55, what we find is simply a picture. Nothing Might Happen by Isaac Asimov. So there's a pen, very long one, and a paper, some sort of a fan letter with ink spots all over it. And there's this guy. The very bottom says illustration by Arthur George. The letter is deliberately not quite readable, although I guess you could read it. Maybe they're Gelderman or something like that, but all the rest is deliberately unreadable. So, other than that, there's no blurb. Now, before I get into the story, I might as well mention this story has been collected into his book, The Best Mysteries of Isaac Asimov. Okay. It is in fact literally the last story at the end of the book. And in here, it does have a small blurb. I'll just go ahead and read this. Sometimes a mystery story isn't a mystery story in the literal sense of the word. There is no puzzle, merely the outline of some criminal or near-criminal course of behavior. You might call it simply a crime story. Alfred Hitchcock's mystery magazine, this is his only story he ever published in there, by the way, is very strong on that sort of story, and it occurred to me to write a story for them because, for one thing, the editor, Kathleen Jordan, is one of my favorite people. Naturally, I had to write a crime story, which is atypical for me. It is. But I'm sort of pleased with the way it turned out, and here it is. So now we dive into the text, which, so far as I've been able to tell, seems to be the same between the two places. So what is going on? You have this person, there's an author named Ralph Gelderman. Okay. Anyway, go on. And he has a nephew named Samuel Gelderman. And Ralph has become a moderately successful writer, not by writing any super big classic hits, but just by writing so many books, each of them make enough profit that if you add them all up together, you have this slowly growing but definitely gaining in size and stature corpus of works set of books that have actually done pretty well. Meanwhile, there's his nephew, who things who have not been good for not a whole lot, but being Ralph's, secretary, gopher, whatever else you could think of, kind of in the shadow of his famous uncle, or moderately famous uncle. But Samuel Gelderman is kind of getting on with life, and he's kind of realizing he kind of wishes he could have that fortune for himself. And I guess he's reached a point where the books have become a steady seller, and I guess the idea is you can kill this golden goose, and the eggs will keep on coming long enough to have a very comfortable life. So, if his uncle were to just die, that would in fact happen. So, because there are no other heirs in the picture, Ralph doesn't seem to be interested in getting married, and apparently neither is Sam, that we know of. So, he comes up with, but he doesn't want to try bumping off the uncle in any of the normal ways. But finally it turns out he does have one of these little jobs, and that is responding to the fan mail his uncle gets. Because people write letters to the uncle, and once in a while somebody writes, "Oh, I love your book, it was great with this, and I loved how you did this thing." He'll pass those letters on to the uncle. That's okay, the uncle doesn't mind those. But all the other ones, no. It's like, and once in a while you get these cranky crackpots that sound like, well, I think you're part of a conspiracy. If you don't help me fight the conspiracy I'm fighting, whatever. And he tries deliberately to exploit that by just gently saying these things that just calculated to piss them off, but sound innocuous to just about anybody else who looks at the responses. And the idea is this: if he can get the ire of one or another of these crackpots up seriously enough, perhaps that person might come along and of themselves bump off the uncle. Now, will that really work? Well, hence the title. Nothing might happen. He's doing this kind of stuff, and most probably nothing's going to happen. It's just this little head game he can amuse himself with while waiting for the dear Uncle Ralph to just please, kick the bucket some way or another. But he's in better health than Sam, and, well, the odds of that don't seem good. So, but you never know. You could get lucky. You keep pissing off these fans, and you're doing it in a way that has the apparent support of Uncle Ralph, even his actual signatures. That finally, well, let's just say one of these fans does come and decide to wreak a vengeance on, Ralph Gelderman. And it goes in an interesting direction. Very, very fitting. It would have been, you really could have made an Alfred Hitchcock Presents out of this. You really could have. I'll have to leave it at that. I don't want to give away the spoiler on this one. So it was a fun little read. It starts a little slow, kind of going through this, okay, whatever, until suddenly you get towards the end, and it's like, oh, this is getting interesting, and then it's fine. Okay, it's a neat little read. I think it's a good one. Totally recommend it. Thanks for watching.